Another high-stakes fight, this one over immigration at our southern border. Sources confirmed to CBS News that President Biden is considering using sweeping executive authority.
More people coming across our border every single day than what New York gets in a week or a month.
The debate over immigration in the United States has reached a critical point. With President Biden leading the charge, there's a noticeable change from the policies set by Donald Trump. This shift has sparked heated arguments, especially in Texas, where Governor Abbott is standing firm on the state's control of border matters. In places like New York City, immigrants are a common sight, adding to the complexity of the issue and prompting both Democrats and Republicans to investigate. Join us as we explore America's intriguing immigration story. Chapter 1. Border tensions and Biden's immigration rules. In the United States, there are big and complicated arguments about immigration, especially concerning the area along the southern border. This topic is getting a lot of attention right now because President Biden is thinking about importantly using his special presidential powers. People in Washington, D.C. are talking about how the Biden administration might look back at some important rules when President Trump was in charge. These rules were mostly about controlling the border. For a while now, people have been talking a lot about what's happening at the border. It seems like no final choice has been made, but there are guesses that President Biden might use parts of a law that both Democrats and Republicans in the Senate agreed on. This law got people talking, but didn't work out a few weeks back, mainly because it wasn't what former President Trump wanted. The law was a big topic of discussion. It tried to deal with different parts of the immigration rules, but many people, especially Republicans, didn't like it after Trump said he didn't like it. Now, looking at Texas, the leader of the state, Governor Greg Abbott, is really against these ideas. Governor Abbott showed how strongly he disagrees by writing a letter with very forceful words. In one notable part, he said he already called it an invasion and talked about Texas's right, based on the Constitution, to protect and control its own land. This strong statement by Governor Abbott shows just how intense and deep the argument about immigration is, especially in places like Texas that are right on the border and feel the effects of immigration rules the most. Governor Abbott saying this is important because it challenges the big government in Washington, D.C. It suggests that sometimes a state's decisions can be more powerful than the federal laws. This brave statement shows how seriously and urgently some leaders in states are treating the issue of immigration. At the same time, the Biden administration is thinking about taking big steps using presidential powers to handle the situation at the border. If they do this, it would be a big change in how President Biden deals with immigration. It shows the strong pressure he's under. President Biden has been criticized a lot by politicians from both political parties for how he's dealing with immigration. This criticism is part of a bigger picture of political arguments and discussions about the best way to handle immigration. This topic keeps bringing out strong feelings and different views all over the United States. This situation leads to a very important question. How will this affect New York City, which is already dealing with a lot of migrants? The main issue seems to be about how the government is trying to stop people from entering the country illegally. Their plan is simple. They want these immigrants to come in through certain places that are officially allowed for entering the country. This method is becoming the new way to handle things. The government is trying to get migrants to use these official entry points, and this idea is starting to become more popular. But there is a serious rule for those who don't follow this method. If someone tries to come into the country without using one of these official entry points, they will be quickly sent back at the border. This policy is quite interesting, especially because of when it's happening. The timing is important here. It's during an election season when immigration is a big issue for voters nationwide. It's important to remember that 3 years ago, on his first day as president, Joe Biden took action to eliminate all the immigration policies set by Donald Trump. However, just a few weeks ago, Biden seemed to say he couldn't do anything more about immigration policy. As political tensions rise during election season, President Biden faces a challenging moment that could redefine immigration policies forever. Chapter 2. A Quest for Total Control. On the 30th of January, a very important event took place. This was the day when President Biden felt like his hands were tied. He was asked about how he has been using his presidential powers to deal with immigration issues, and if there was anything more he could do. What Biden said next was quite eye-opening. He admitted that he had already done everything he could with the powers he had, and was now looking for more authority to better manage the crisis at the border. He was looking for more power and resources. This included needing more judges and officials to help decrease immigration and make things more organized. This moment in the story of the United States immigration policy, especially in New York City, shows how hard it is for a country to find the right balance. It highlights the struggles of a city that is under a lot of pressure, a government that is trying to make difficult policy choices, and a president who is trying to lead while dealing with the limits of politics and what is actually possible. Immigration is still a very complicated and controversial topic that needs careful thought and smart planning. In New York City, an astonishing 175,000 immigrants have arrived, each dreaming of a better and more successful life. Many of them came looking for work, drawn by the city's reputation for offering such opportunities. However, the reality they found was quite different from what they expected. Known for its lively atmosphere and many chances, the city is now having a hard time handling this large number of people. The city's resources are stretched thin, making it difficult to support these new arrivals. Officials urgently need time to plan and come up with strategies. They want to help these immigrants find jobs and become part of the city's diverse community, but the number of people needing help is just too much. The growing need for a solution at the border is becoming more and more obvious. This issue has become so big that it has reached the highest levels of the government, catching the attention of the White House and leading them to think about changing policies similar to those from the Trump era. This involves rethinking the asylum program, which was meant to be a safe place for those in serious need, but is now so overwhelmed that it might fail. The thought of limiting access to this program is a big and important decision, especially for a government led by Democrats. This is being considered because of the extraordinary number of immigrants, with a record-breaking 2.4 million in the last fiscal year. The huge number of people wanting to start new lives in America has reached levels never seen before, putting a lot of pressure on the immigration system. The possible restrictions on the asylum program show not just the current challenges, but also how attitudes towards immigration are changing. As the government deals with this complicated issue, the future of many people hoping for safety and a new start in America is uncertain. The U.S. government is looking again at an old law known as 212F, which has been around for over 70 years. This law lets the president stop people from other countries from entering if it's thought to be bad for the U.S. This isn't the first time it's been considered. Under President Trump, it was used to stop people from certain countries, mostly Muslim, from coming in, which led to many legal fights. If the current government tries to use it in a similar way, there are likely to be legal challenges. These events show the difficulties faced by both a city and a country as they make important decisions. New York City, once known for welcoming immigrants, now faces problems because of its popularity. The government has to make hard choices about protecting national interests while keeping true to the core American values of offering safety and chances. The debate over immigration is still very heated and emotional, showing how complex it is to govern a diverse, changing nation. President Biden and his team are grappling with soaring immigration numbers and the public's increasing concern. Chapter 3. Every day 5,000 immigrants crosses the border. President Joe Biden is facing a lot of problems with immigration. Leaders from the Democratic Party in many cities have shared their concerns with him about more and more immigrants coming to their areas. This issue is really important for Biden because people don't think he's doing a good job with immigration, and it's also the time for elections.
It's time to act. It's long past time to act. I just received a briefing from the Border Patrol at the border, as well as immigration and enforcement, asylum officers, and they're all doing incredible work.
People who work in the White House are saying that they might think of a new way to deal with this problem in the next few weeks. Two people, Vlad and Nancy, have been talking about how it's President Biden's responsibility to sort out these immigration issues. They've noticed that a lot of Americans are really worried about immigration and keeping the country's borders under control. This is a big change for President Biden, who used to say that he couldn't do much about this. Now, There's a lot of talk about a special law that's being discussed in the Senate. Some people think this law is a good idea, but others don't think it will help reduce the number of people coming into the country, which is around 5,000 people every day. Another problem is how these cases are handled right now by people who aren't experts in immigration laws. The law also lets the president decide if there's a big emergency, which could change how they deal with this issue. A lot of people are discussing President Biden's plans for immigration, sharing their worries and complaints. They remember that since he became president, Biden has been against the ideas of the previous president, Donald Trump. They especially talk about Biden's decision to stop the Remain in Mexico policy. This policy, started by Trump, made people who were looking for a safe place to stay wait in Mexico while the U.S. looked at their requests. Critics say that by ending this policy and making border agents do less, Biden has accidentally made a problem that he now needs to fix. They want Biden to do something big, maybe through a special order, to solve this issue. Because of these increasing concerns, President Biden seems to be considering tougher rules for people who want to come to the United States for safety. These new rules would ask people who are looking for a safe place to live, which is called seeking asylum, to show strong proof that they really need to stay in the country. For example, they might need to prove that they have very bad health problems or that they are in danger of getting hurt a lot if they go back to their own countries. If President Biden decides to make these changes, it would be a big difference from how things are now. It could make it much harder for people to come to the United States to find safety.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
However, this possible change is making a lot of people argue. If President Biden decides to make these rules tougher, it might cause problems inside his own political group, the Democratic Party. Many Democrats usually want to make it easier for people to come to the U.S., and this new plan might look like they are changing their minds about that. Also, some people who don't like how immigration is being handled now say that letting a lot of migrants in, especially from places like South America and China, is dangerous for the country. They talk about how there are so many migrants already, like over 170,000 in New York City alone. Some of these people have been in the news for doing bad things, which makes the argument about how to manage immigration even more intense. The whole situation is very complicated and has a lot of effects on politics and society. On one side, there's a need to deal with safety and the challenge of having so many migrants coming to the U.S. But on the other side, there's a need to think about the people who are trying to escape really bad situations in their own countries. What President Biden decides to do about the rules for asylum will impact thousands of people looking for a safer life and will also show what his administration thinks is important. This decision will have a big impact, not just in America, but all over the world, as everyone watches how the U.S. deals with this sensitive and dividing topic. The situation at the border of the United States is getting more and more tense and complicated. This is especially true as attention shifts towards the western part of the border because of stronger security measures being put in place in Texas. A small and not very well-known town near San Diego, California, is now becoming a key location in this ongoing situation. This town, called Jacumba, is becoming an important spot for people from different parts of the world trying to enter the United States. They see the border near Jacumba as easier to get into the country. Now let's take a closer look at what is happening in key spots of the country, where immigrants are entering from both left and right. Chapter 4. The Lonely Path to Hope, Jacumba's Border Crossing. Something important is happening in a small, out-of-the-way place between San Diego and Jacumba. This town is far from other places, which has led to a big increase in the number of people crossing the border illegally. Many of these people are coming from China and the Middle East. Experts believe that local gangs are playing a big role in this. They are guiding people to cross the border at this particular spot. They have set up camp next to a big road and seem to be waiting for the border police to find them. The fact that so many migrants are coming to such remote places makes people question how well the current border policies are working and what these crossings mean for the people involved from a caring point of view. The story of Jacumba is a strong example of the larger issues related to migration to the United States. This place shows us how people from different parts of the world like China and the Middle East, are involved in the current situation of people moving to new countries. These people choose to go through very lonely and possibly dangerous areas, showing their desperation and the risks they're willing to take for a chance at a better life. What's happening in Jacumba is not just a problem for that area, or even just for San Diego. It reflects the bigger, more complex, and sometimes more worrying issues of global movement and how countries protect their borders. As this story develops, it's showing many different opinions and discussions about how the United States should deal with people coming into the country and how it handles its borders. A touching and significant scene is happening in a quiet area near a big road in San Diego County. In this area, away from busy places, many people from all over the world have come together, making a temporary home. They've made fires to stay warm in the cold night, giving the place an unreal and sad feeling.
The county is now accepting grant applications from groups interested in placing tiny pallet homes or sleeping cabins on their property.
These people, from many different and faraway places, all hope for the same thing: to be found and taken in by the U.S. Border Patrol. This event occurs in a calm, almost spooky area where it seems like everyone has left. For a long time, no one from the Border Patrol shows up, leaving these people unsure about what will happen next. They come from all sorts of places, like China, Turkey, and Central America, and each person is waiting with their own story and reasons for making such a risky trip. A reporter talking to some of these people asks a very simple but meaningful question. Where do you all come from? The answers come back in the cool air. Turkey, Turkey, Turkey. Ecuador, Ecuador, Ecuador. China, China, China.
Where are you from? China? China? Ecuador. Ecuador.
What I saw today was shocking. Chinese and other nationals from around the world no longer saying they're coming here for asylum. They're admitting they're coming here for jobs. They hear that they'll get in, and they will.
Each answer not only tells us where they're from, but also the long distances they've traveled, the different cultures they've left behind, and the unknown future they're facing. When the journalist asked more, he learned about what these people are hoping for. When they were asked, which city in the US would you like to visit? Everyone had the same answer: Los Angeles, LA, Los Angeles. After dreaming of LA, we now see the tough truth at the border. Chapter 5: The Drama in Border Realities. On the side of the road, a group of people from different countries gathers. This small scene is like a tiny version of the big movement of people worldwide. The image shows us clearly the tough realities and problems that these people face. They have left their own countries to try and find a better life elsewhere. This scene is very moving and touches our hearts. It tells a story that many people worldwide can understand and relate to. Here we see the personal stories of each person against the bigger story of people moving all over the world. This creates a picture that is both detailed about each person and broad about the whole world. Every person in this group has their own story. These stories show how strong and hopeful people can be when they want a better future. Stories like these, which we see in places like San Diego County, go beyond just one area. They are part of a bigger conversation about people moving from one country to another. This is not just happening in one place or to one group of people. It's a reminder of a big and ongoing challenge that affects the whole world. Recently, something new has happened in this story. A lot more people from China have been coming to the United States southern border. This is different from what used to happen and has made people both worried and curious. Data from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection shows how big this change is. Since October, over 20,000 people from China have come to the border. This is a huge increase from the 450 people in the whole of 2021. This more than 4,000% increase shows a big change in the pattern of people moving. It also creates big challenges for managing the border and making policies. But it's not just people from China. The situation is even more complex because people from other places with conflicts like Syria are also coming. They shared why they are moving. These men, who come from a place with a lot of war, really admire the United States. They are looking for safety and stability, which they can't find in their own country because of the fighting and dangers there. People from different countries like China and Syria coming to the U.S. southern border is a complex situation. It shows the big picture of politics and society in the world, and the personal journeys of people looking for better lives. Each number we hear is a real person with hopes, dreams, and often a hard and dangerous past. The big increase in people from different places coming to the U.S. is a complicated issue. It involves international relations, taking care of people, and keeping the country safe. As the United States tries to manage the border and make fair immigration policies, it's important to find practical solutions that also show kindness and understanding of this worldwide movement. The way immigration happens at U.S. borders is very different, especially between California and Texas. Observers like Jackie and Dana have seen these differences. They are not just easy to see, but they also have a big impact on both the people moving and the people already living in these states. This contrast shows the different problems and chances that come with people moving. It affects local communities and helps shape what the whole country thinks about immigration. From personal stories to big rules, let's see how California and Texas are different. Chapter 6. The Immigration Equation: Kindness versus Regulation. California's boundary line is notably different from that of Texas. In Texas, you'll find many strict regulations focused on security. However, in California, the approach is quite the opposite. Unlike Texas, California's border doesn't present intimidating sights, such as sharp razor wire, large metal barriers, or an overwhelming presence of soldiers and police officers. This stark contrast between the two states highlights their differing methods in handling people entering their territories. California is known for its welcoming attitude towards immigrants, including those who may not adhere strictly to immigration protocols. This approach is a significant deviation from Texas's stance, where strict rules and substantial physical barriers are commonplace. The differences aren't limited to physical barriers and security measures. They extend to the treatment of newcomers. A prime example is California's initiative in healthcare. The state has initiated a program funded by its residents to provide medical assistance to undocumented immigrants. This initiative is a remarkable step forward, indicating California's commitment to ensuring healthcare access for all, regardless of their origin. The contrasting immigration policies of California and Texas have broader implications. For individuals looking to enter the United States, California might appear as a more inviting destination, perceived as a state that seeks to improve their lives and offer support. However, this perspective may not be shared universally, especially among existing California residents who contribute to state taxes. These residents might harbor concerns about the financial implications of supporting a large influx of immigrants. They may also worry about potential changes in their community dynamics due to the increasing population. Observing California's less fortified border compared to Texas, and considering its more lenient policy towards undocumented immigrants, brings to light a complex issue. It raises questions about the balance between compassion and maintaining order. The challenge lies in supporting those seeking a better life while ensuring the state's capacity to accommodate them appropriately. As the situation evolves, we witness diverse strategies adopted by different states in managing immigration. Discussions are ongoing about the most effective and fair approach that also maintains safety and order. California's approach can be perceived as compassionate and supportive, particularly for individuals facing difficulties in their home countries. This support could provide hope and assistance to many. Yet, residents of California may have valid concerns. They might ponder the impact on the state's finances and the effects on their local communities. Questions arise about the sustainability of California's support for a growing number of immigrants, especially concerning the strain on resources like hospitals, schools, and the overall economy. In the year 2024, two of the biggest states in the USA, California and Texas, have very different stories when it comes to the people who come to live there from other countries. Let's start with California. This state is like a giant magnet for immigrants. It's got about 10.4 million people born in another country, which is a huge chunk, 23%, of all the immigrants in the United States. That means California is at the top of the list for states with lots of immigrants. Back in 2022, if you picked any person in California at random, there was a 27% chance they weren't born in the USA. That's more than 2 times the average for the whole country, which is just 12%. From 2010 to 2022, more people came to live in California from other countries, but not as many as in the past. The number grew by just 3%, about 310,000 people. Most of these new Californians did all the paperwork to stay in the USA legally, and over half of them have even become American citizens. These immigrants like to live near the coast in big cities, mostly from Latin America, almost half of them, and Asia. What's interesting is that many of these new Californians are pretty smart, with many of them holding college degrees, especially those from Asia. Now let's talk about Texas. In Texas, about 17.2% of all the people living there were born in another country. That's a bit less than California, but it's still a big number. Texas is really popular with immigrants, especially those coming from Mexico, which makes sense because Texas and Mexico are neighbors. Big cities in Texas like Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston are where you'll find a lot of these immigrants. Over the years, more and more people from other countries have made Texas their home. The people who come to live in Texas are there for all sorts of reasons. Some come for jobs, others to be with their family, and some are students. Just like in California, Texas's immigrants come from all over the world and bring with them a mix of cultures and experiences. Now let's delve deeper into this rabbit hole and explore how this relates to the crime rate between the two. As of 2024, we uncover contrasting stories when we delve into the crime rates of California and Texas, 2 of America's largest states. These states offer a rich ground for comparison, considering their large and diverse populations and differing approaches to law enforcement. Let's first look at California. This state is famous for its large number of people and its significant immigrant community. In California, there's a mixed picture when it comes to crime. The state faces various challenges, including theft, burglary, and violent crimes. Big cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco are particularly struggling with property crimes, such as thefts and break-ins. However, it's not all bad news. In some parts of California, there's been a noticeable decrease in serious crimes like murder. One of the reasons for California's complex crime situation is its high population density, especially in cities along the coast. These cities are bustling centers of business and daily life, which unfortunately also makes them a target for different kinds of crime. Moreover, the way California handles crime, focusing on changing and improving its law enforcement and criminal justice systems, also affects its crime rates. Now, if we turn to Texas, we see a different scenario. Texas, like California, has a large immigrant population and is right next to Mexico. This location brings its own set of challenges, especially in terms of crime. The crime rates vary in big Texas cities like Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth, which are major immigrant destinations. Texas deals with problems like illegal substances and crimes related to its border location. But it's not all grim. Some parts of Texas have successfully reduced violent crimes, with several cities reporting a drop in major criminal activities. In Texas, the variety of people coming in, many for jobs or to study, adds layers to the state's crime picture. The way Texas police work, including some strict measures, has effectively controlled certain types of crimes. So do you agree with building up those Texan walls? Let us know in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more.